Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, and Carlton have beaten the top of the table Pies by 17 points in what could be a season-defining win for the Blues. My co-host, as you all know, Lockie, he is living it up in sunny Europe at the moment. I have actually managed to track him down. I got him to record me a little bit of a clip, so I'll put that in somewhere throughout this episode. Very keen for you to finally hear from Lockie, but a big win. It's called for a big occasion and a big guest. I'm very excited to introduce my guest this week. You'll probably know him from Blue Abroad. He's my favorite part of the fan cams every single week. He's also appeared on the Jumper Punch. It is, of course, the great Jad, mate. Thanks for joining me. How are you going?
Thanks, mate. Oh, mate, I am cloud nine. And after that pump up, it's just getting worse. The ego's out of control right now, mate.
Oh, that's good to hear. Good to hear. It's hard to be upset at the moment as a Carlton supporter. It's one of those weird things, just how much it dictates your mood. Like even today, work was pretty average, but it didn't matter because of just how good the Blues are going. And you're just waiting for one person to just ask you about it and talk footy this week. It's just incredible.
Mate, I actually had work at 6 a.m. Saturday morning.
Oh.
So I left the G. Yeah, I left the G. I was so just couldn't think straight, caught the wrong train. Finally got home at 1, and then I started watching the replay. And then, mate, it got to 4 o'clock. I thought, shit, I better get a little bit of sleep. Went to work on less than an hour, and it was the easiest non-sleep 6 a.m. shift I've ever done. Oh.
That's beautiful. It's just what it does. And look, it's a big episode, so we've got to start with a big question because we've just beaten the best team, I guess you can call it that. Didn't look at on Friday night. I think we're the best team at the moment, but the so-called best team, top of the table, arch rivals Collingwood, it was massive. So this question is, what does this win mean? Because it's massive. And I want to know in a couple of different contexts, and that is, what did this win mean to you as a fan? What do you think it means for this group? And then what do you think it means in the context of this season?
All right. Well, look, for the fan, for me, and maybe for a lot of other people, I think it makes that 6 years or that 7-year rebuild, I think it makes it worth it. And I think it proves that maybe we didn't stuff it up. Yeah. That's what I think. It gives me that faith that everything we went through was worth it, and it's gonna come good. We weren't wasting our time. And mate, I lost complete faith. I gave up. I had everyone sacked. I had trade bait. I had everything. So the best humble pie I've ever had.
Yeah.
And then yeah, go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I feel so similar. I go back to the mid-season review that Lockie and I were recording in that Sydney loss, that Essendon loss, where, off pod, Lockie and I are genuinely having conversations of what are we doing? Is it worth us doing this? Does anyone want to even listen to us continually talking about how bad it was? The mid-season review, we spent almost 2 hours talking about all the list changes that we're going to make at the end of the season because it was the only thing giving us any hope of just blow everything up, start again, let's go. And yeah, this kind of win, it does. It just makes that feeling, that final few moments when you realize that the victories happened, it just makes everything worth it, all that pain. And it's insane to think that from just a regular season win, but that's just what a win against Collingwood does. And a win against such a good team, a massive scalp that we just seem to never do.
Yeah, mate. And like you mentioned it just then, the reactions of people, I did think to myself at some point, are we overreacting to this? Is it that significant? And every time I even say it out loud like that, I get that feeling in my gut that just says, shut your mouth, Jad. Stop trying to, take some shine off it. I think this was hugely significant. And that leads into the second part of that question. What does it do for the group? I think they know that they're good enough, and I think that it proves to them that they're made of the right stuff. They're made of the right stuff. And looking at them, they just look sick of losing. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard to disagree. And I think that when I was sort of looking at this and writing that question and trying to think of my answer myself, all I could think about was what other scalps have we had? What other scalps has this group had in recent times? And the one I can think of was, early this year, round 2 against Geelong, where I remember thinking, that's the one. Okay. We had the draw against Richmond, but we've held on to one in a tight finish. Has that exercised the demons of that Collingwood game, round 23? We've held on. We've beaten the reigning premiers. This is it. And then all of a sudden, turns out Geelong aren't playing that good of football. We don't go on with it. We end up having the worst probably part of a season that we've had in years, even though we've had some shocking years. And it's kind of it. Like the context of this win is off the back of a massive 5 weeks, winning each of those games by over 50 points, which is already massive. But how many asterisks were on every single one of those wins? It was, it's only a bottom of the table, West Coast, who cares? Port's rested their whole team. Every single one of those games, everyone was making the excuses and not justifying that Carlton have turned their season around and we're finally a good team. And I think that you could easily have excused a loss to Collingwood, okay? Best team in the comp at the moment. You've had a good run. Yeah, you can lose one. 2 games we're allowed to lose for the rest of the season and still make finals. You sort of pencil in Collingwood as the one you'll allow. But if we lost to Collingwood, the doubts remain. The question's still going to get asked. Even us fans, we're still probably not going to buy in and believe 100% that, yeah, we can do this. This Carlton's changed and we can be a team that not only makes finals but can do some damage. And this was the scalp. They had to go out there and show it. And for them to do it, it still doesn't guarantee finals. It may just be a regular season win. But for this to just be that exclamation point on this 5-week run, now it's 6 weeks. God, who knows how far we can go now. And that's just crazy that one win has done that for us.
Yeah. We'll go back to that Geelong game that you brought up. Mate, even though we won that, don't get me wrong, I had the same opinion as you. I thought, wow, this is it, finally. But there was still that thing, that question in the back of the mind, look how we're playing. It wasn't that impressive. It wasn't, I don't know, there was just something about it that just seemed, it wasn't the football that we thought we were going to be playing, even though we got those wins. And then the weeks went on, and then we had that huge win against West Coast, the first one. And I hated that win. I don't know, because I saw the game. I watched it after I got home from work, so the emotion was a bit removed for me. And the way they were playing in that game, I hated it, mate. I can't lie to you. I was disgusted. And I was messaging people like Terry and Palm and all those sort of guys. And I'm just like, mate, this is garbage. But then you compare that loss with the way, you compare that win with the way we beat Freo. You get worlds apart, absolutely worlds apart. The football is so much better. And look, in my mind, I bookmarked that Freo game because I was going to ask you a question. Because for me, this whole thing became real. When I started thinking, wow, this is actually real, was that Freo game. I was so pumped at that game just because of the football we were playing. So in these 6 weeks, when did you think it was real? When did you really start to believe and think, damn, this is actually different?
Yeah. The Freo one was definitely big because we win that. I didn't maybe expect us to. There was still hope at this stage. We win that game over there. They were up and down in form at that stage, but it was the way we went about it, like you're talking about. It wasn't just the scoreboard and the fact that we beat them by over 50 points and just dominated the whole game. It was the method about it. But even then, I still had doubts. And it really probably was that Port Adelaide game where it was finally a good team. And there's the excuses of the players that were injured or rested, but it didn't matter again because this was, if we had just won that game, still playing that football, but it was say 17 points, like maybe the Collingwood, you'd be like, nah, we needed to do more. The fact that we foot on the throat beat Port Adelaide in the manner we did, that's when I went, okay, we can kind of do this to anyone. And I guess going into this Collingwood game, there wasn't that confidence yet. There was still those question marks that we're sort of talking about going into this game. But there was more of a belief that, yeah, we're a good chance. If we just play the way we have been, why can't we beat Collingwood? Why can't we beat anyone? And I think now for me, it's really cemented in this that, yeah, we can back it up. This method works. What about you? Was that the Freo game that sort of really started that belief for you?
Yeah, look, honestly, it was, and I'm not trying to, have an like say, oh, I knew back then, because all I knew back then was, or that I could feel back then was, it was genuinely different, and it wasn't because of the opposition. That was a big one for me. I didn't think it was Freo were bad, Hawks were bad, Gold Coast were bad. Like, sure, those teams aren't playing well, but I think you could still take out positives in the way we played. You don't really have to look at the opposition, because you can compare those performances to earlier in the year, and it's day and night, honestly. The handball chain, the poking through zones with short, sharp kicks, the handball receives, the go, the tackling, everything. The way our forwards are making space inside 50. So that Freo game, I was really pumped. I was so pleased, because, it was in Perth, all the excuse in the world to lose. Freo were down at the time. So you probably thought, oh, this could be the game where Freo gets some form back. But we absolutely slaughtered them, put them to the sword.
Yeah, and those have been a massive thing for me as well. Like the Freo game as well, where we just come out hot with the pressure. I think that's been a big change in why this feels so real, and why this is such, like you're talking about, such a contrast from what we've seen at the start of this season, and really Carlton for most of this rebuild anyway. I feel like we've never come out as that strong team from the get-go, from the first bounce. Sometimes it's been there, but it fades, and this has been that 4 quarters every single time.
Yeah, spot on. That is so true. That this little patch of ours, it feels like there's like a thing, analogy, not an analogy, but sort of an analogy. This is the how I wanted to put it. So we are finally becoming that team. We are fully, properly leaving rebuild phase, young team phase. We're actually becoming what I think is going to be a threat in the coming years. We will be spoken about in that top 6 to top 4 mold going forward. That doesn't mean we're going to win the flag this year, but that is the significance that I place on this 6-week patch. Like this, like I think I said it to someone on another channel. Like, this is the beginning of what we all dreamt that this group could do. Like, it feels like it's just the start.
Yeah, there's just a maturity around the performance. Like, you're making me think back to like that West Coast game that we did win, and earlier in the year that it felt like that could have been the start of something just because of the scoreline of it. But you're making me like double think about it. And yeah, there was so many different little moments in that still weren't perfect. It felt like, yeah, that was West Coast. Whereas this time, and even think about the way that we decimated just West Coast again, it was completely different. And it just feels like this group have finally clicked, finally matured, and it brings us to talk about this game against Collingwood.
So good.
There's going to be so much to talk about. This podcast could go for about 7 hours. I'm excited to get into it. So what were those key kind of standout moments? What were the key takeaways for you from that game? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, mate, where do you start? Let's start at the build-up. Just the journey into the city. It reminded me that football, whether the rest of the league likes it or not, it is about Carlton versus Collingwood. If we all go extinct one day and a new species finds some tape and they put it in and they watch it, they're going to see, and they find it's an AFL tape, they're going to see the Carlton stripe, the Collingwood stripes, and the Carlton jersey, on the G, packed crowd playing footy. That's what it's about, mate. I got on the train. It was packed early, Collingwood everywhere, few Carlton, and I'm sitting there going in, and you look around the train, you catch eyes with people, and I'm telling you, you could feel there is a genuine resentment and hatred there amongst these two fan bases, young and old, and was for the first time since probably 2008. I really felt that again between the two. Like it's a genuine dislike there, and
Yeah,
that got me pumped. And
yeah, it's big. It's big when like I've got a lot of mates that are Collingwood supporters, and I don't want to talk to them in the week leading up. Like I will disown them as a friend until that final whistle goes because I just can't stand it. They don't become my friends anymore. It's insane what it does.
Mate, yeah. So I went to the G. I met up with two mates. So one of them's a Richmond mate, the other one's a Collingwood, and I made sure that the Richmond mate sat in the middle because I needed some separation from the other bloke. Like it's just not going to happen. And you mentioned earlier, like we could have been forgiven for losing this game, and maybe that is true. Inside the club and the AFL with AFL world, but when I walked into that G, mate, and I saw those Collingwood fans, and on that train, I thought to myself, I cannot stomach a loss today.
Yeah.
Like I do not want to leave here losing. It just can't happen. Like for my sake, for the fan, couldn't imagine leaving that G, losing by 30 points and nah. So it's just destiny had its way and got it done.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. I remember in the build-up to the game as well, like having conversations with the people, asking like, "How do you think you go? What's going to happen?" And I had the thought, and maybe I was just trying to convince myself this because the amount of times I kept saying the words, and I'm guilty of it. I was definitely one of those people saying feels like a bit of a free hit because we all kind of penciled this in as a loss, and it's strange how as soon as there's a couple minutes before that bounce goes and you start to get ready, it's just that feeling of no, I can't do it. We can't lose. This is it. And you start to go back to all those questions of if we lose this, there's still going to be doubts. No one's going to believe that this has happened. And we talk about those hot starts and us needing to do it. Collingwood kind of got the jump on us early. And there was kind of maybe some worrying signs in those first couple of minutes where they've got the ascendancy in the contested ball. They've got those clearances. They put it on the scoreboard, and it's, oh, wow. This is maybe we aren't just there yet. Maybe we've still got some good parts of us, but it's not there. And I think to start off with, I was just so impressed with how he responded in that first quarter. The Carlton of old, the Carlton earlier this season, even in that round 23 game, we struggled to get into the game, but we slowly started to win the clearances, slowly started to get that contested ball, won the territory game, and go in at quarter time level. And all of a sudden, the game is back to how it started after that quarter time, and all their dominance early means nothing. And I think that was just the start of this, and that felt like just a maturity that I haven't seen so far this year.
Yeah, well, I won't lie to you. That first 5-8 minutes, I was fearing the worst. I'm sure we all were. But look, it's amazing the things that you kind of process once the game's over and a couple of days have passed. Like now looking back on the game, like when we got level in that first quarter or when we went behind, you could now there's been a couple of days, the body language was different. It was very, very calm. No one was sagging off. No one looked stressed. No one slumped their shoulders. It was, get to work. And that's that maturity you're speaking of. They just look like there's no fear anymore. Like there's no fear. They're going to stick to their system, and it is going to get them through.
Yeah, there's so much less panic, it feels. Like even when Collingwood throughout this game, when they brought pressure, whenever they brought anything, no, it didn't matter. We just kept it. We stuck to it. We knew it's like we finally know what the task is. We've all bought in. We finally can all understand it, and we just continually go about it. And that was kind of one of my favorite parts in this whole game. And that I said there couldn't be any excuses about this game, particularly because we had outs in this. We played a full strength Collingwood team, but now the rhetoric is, oh, Collingwood had an off night. Collingwood just didn't play well. And it's just so funny that that's just the Suki response that comes out of it, because it all stems from we did not allow Collingwood to play their way. That was my key takeaway that I couldn't believe. And it feels like such a contrast to everything. How many times do we step up to one of these games and the opposition, stop us playing the way that we want to play. It's never the other way around. And for us to slow Collingwood down, to set up well defensively, force them wide with short kicks constantly. We let them have the wing out wide, no danger. And then we forced them to make stupid decisions. They had to take on that kick on the 45. We'd intercept. We'd put the pressure on, block that corridor. It created so many intercept opportunities. It was so much easier to defend and positioned so well around the ground. The work rate was up. I think the high half forwards and those guys really, really need a lot of credit for this victory because we stopped those quick, easy exits that Collingwood have just allowed off turnover to just destroy teams through the middle. And I just thought our pressure was just immense in that. What did you kind of make of our ability to stop Collingwood's strengths and their sort of handball change through the middle?
The takeout for me for that is elite coaching. I have ridden these coaches to death this year, you could just see the way we stopped them, as you said, exploding off halfback, handball chain through the guts. Just screamed to me of elite planning and elite coaching, and the boys have bought in. And I just love seeing Collingwood try and take that center, explode through the middle. And I just love seeing our boys get a hand in, get a fist in, stop that next handball train. They had no space. Like Collingwood, there was no space for anyone. Maybe once I saw Nick Dacos get a little burst of 6 meters on someone. Maybe once or twice I saw that, but we completely nullified them. And the takeaway is just fantastic planning and coaching. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, no, they definitely need massive credit because we've all knocked them incredibly over this season. And I think it's definitely been fair because of what we were seeing and what they were doing. We weren't setting up in a way that seemed to play to our strengths, but turn around in this game, like that pressure, that work rate, the positioning, there was a physicality about the performance, which is what Vossi said everything would be built on. And I feel like early last year we saw glimpses of it and then it sort of faded away through this year, but that's back. And that was such a massive thing. Stopping Collingwood's strengths is we made them earn every single possession. They knew that we'd be there immediately. And when they were going through those quick handball chains, if we didn't get a hand on it, like you were saying, we'd body the opposition and then they'd be half a step away or half a second off being that next chain in that handball. And it just caused Collingwood to not be under that kind of pressure. And I've never seen so many uncharacteristic Collingwood mistakes, unforced errors from the pressure, from the perceived pressure. That hasn't happened all year. And it was great to see the fumbles, the missed kicks, the poor decision-making. And you just look at the numbers if you need to. 10 more tackles for us when it felt like we dominated the possession again. 6 more tackles inside 50. It's just incredible to see that physicality that you hoped would be our identity, but now it feels like it finally is.
It's back. It's back in a big way, and I love that. I'm glad you brought that up because you hear a lot of the older heads talk about like great Carlton teams of old, and they all say physical, brutal. They use words like that get thrown around, and it's so good to see that Voss has looked from day one. He did say that physicality, power. So it's so good to see, and I loved how, I don't know if you felt this way, but Collingwood looked spooked a little bit. They shirked a few contests. Little Nicky Dacos.
How many times did that man? And look, great footballer, has been playing good football all year, but my God, you could rattle off about 15 times that the ball was there to be won, and poor Nicky Dacos took a step back. I love it. And I kind of have a question off that, which, sorry to cut you off there, but
no.
Made a plan to get physical with Dacos, because there's a moment I remember where it was a stoppage. Dacos is all of a sudden going to the umpire, whinging over a free kick that wasn't paid. Cripper immediately into him. Yeah. So many times Cripper with Maynard, that get the one that's all over Twitter where Maynard,
I love it.
Bully getting into Motlop and Cripper just goes, no, no, mate. And he shits himself and walks away. And it felt like there was such a physical presence for us. We even gave away probably a few free kicks for the late bumps. One that definitely wasn't there, but I liked that the intensity was there. Do you feel like this was a plan from the coaches and from the playing group that to beat Collingwood, you've got to show this physical side that maybe other teams haven't shown Collingwood?
Yeah, it has to be. And I think it's like just sitting, trying to put the coach's hat on. It's like, look, Collingwood do things better than we can. Like, we can't get close in some areas. But what is our one wood? What's our strength? Physicality. And just bring it. And I think it's like, boys, go out there, be as hard and tough as you can. And if they can't handle it, they can't handle it. Let's invite them to the party, and we'll see if they like it. And they didn't. That was unbelievable. And I think that's why you get that sort of rhetoric that, Collingwood were a bit off. But I think if you really analyze that, that's a really big compliment to us, because that just shows that the media and whoever is saying that no other team has been able to do that to them in the entire year. So they can talk all the shit they want, but they had no excuse, no reason, nothing tangible to suggest that they were off. I'm sorry, there's nothing there. The only thing is what we brought. We invited them to the dinner table. They couldn't stomach it. Simple as that. Move on.
Yeah, and it's a full-strength Collingwood. If anyone wants to make any excuses, no Harry, no Kennedy, no Walsh, no Silvani. Chera, the best player on the ground by far at halftime. Third quarter goes off, subbed out. If one team can make excuses if they want, and it's not Collingwood. And
it's unbelievable.
The only other seeming contender at that stage, Port Adelaide, in Adelaide. What was it? Their first time they actually had to travel interstate all season, so it was a little bit too tough for them. It's just ridiculous. And yeah, like the other key point that I really had for this one is the big thing I wanted to talk about, we kind of alluded to, was talking about that contest and that domination in that area, because look, Collingwood's game, they're not built on the contest. It's everything after that. And they don't need the high contested numbers to win games of footy, but the contest was where this game was won. And that's what's also, maybe we're getting too ahead of ourselves, but it's the thing that's getting me excited about this brand of football, because it's built around the contest, but it showed in this that it can beat the uncontested surge football because of everything that pressure brings. We had 33 more contested possessions, 10 more clearances is what it allowed. And that's our strength. The contest has been our strength. And I thought that finally, what is bringing the contested side out of us is the pressure, because the only way to create a contest, to create a stoppage, is by the pressure, is by the tackling. And the way we tackled, we hunted, we worked around the ground incredibly well. We created those stoppages that allows us to finally play to our strengths. And that's a big key that I think's been missing for us wanting to play this contested side. We haven't bought the tackles, haven't bought the pressure. And at the end of the day, our desire to win the football was higher than Collingwood's throughout. What did you kind of make of the contested side being able to beat what Collingwood were bringing?
Look, I'm super happy and pleased with it, because look, I've always been of the thought, maybe because it's the era of footy that I grew up with, but I always used to hear this: contest in finals, contest is king.
Yeah,
I've heard that all my life, and it's fantastic for us because the coaches and the players want a game style that can actually take you somewhere. They can win finals. This is what mate. This style of footy is made for finals. This is what it's about. And the thing for Collingwood is like, maybe it's not really Carlton related, but I think you've got David King and all these personalities saying it's actually a win for Collingwood. Oh, they've actually unearthed a little gem, putting Jeremy Howe forward. Oh, it's actually good for them. But I look at it the other way. This is a massive chink for them, because if they cannot elevate the contest side of their game in finals, they're going to find it very difficult to get somewhere. That might sound crazy to people because they have been so dominant. It's not that they can't do it, but I think if I was Fly, I'd be pretty concerned that the contest side of my game just got destroyed and is got shown up by Carlton and
Mm.
heading into finals, I think that would be a real worry for him. And for us, it's just it's excellent because this is what gets you there. This is what takes you there.
No, it's impressive because they play that surge football that a lot of teams are trying to copy. And when teams get momentum on you, it is hard to stop. And for us to show that we can take the ball away from you, and when oppositions don't have the ball, they seem to not be able to get back into it. You look at what we did with Port, who's another more contested side as well. You take that away, you start to win the football. You can't do anything. And it feels like we're adding these layers. And it's unfortunate that a Walsh goes down and then a Chera goes down, because it feels like these guys were adding so much more run to the outside. But they go down and other guys step up. And that's just another tick from this game that, you know, Paddy Dow comes in and has a bit of a cameo performance in. Look, he wasn't perfect again, but what he did was win the clearances and do the job that he had to do. And you're getting guys like Cunningham pushing up around the ground. Jack Martin is the big one that I'd love to talk about at some stage throughout this, but other guys are stepping up. We're not just having to rely on the individuals, but, you know, in games like this, you still need those guys to step up, and our leaders are finally coming to the table as well. What were the other key kind of takeaways for you from this game?
Just a little one, mate. Charlie Curnow.
Oh my goodness, this man.
This mate, the way he exposed Darcy Moore,
he's triggered a whole fan base.
I think he's triggered the league as well. He's triggered every media personality that wants to give Moore All-Australian honours for bloody being a good intercept mark. I mean, this guy has staked his flag in the ground, and now he's like, nah. I'm the new king. This is Charlie's world. And good Lord. And I think as well, it just shows you how valuable Wiedering is. Earlier in the year, mate, I wrote him off. I didn't know what was wrong. I don't think anyone knew what was wrong with him. He looked so cooked. And now he's just showing that who he is again. The general, I saw a piece of vision on Twitter where the game was over and he's screaming at someone because they didn't set the zone up properly, like Stephen May-esque, like swinging his arms. What are you doing? Like, I just love to see it. It's no surprise that our form coincides with his return to the Wiedering that we all know.
And I don't even know if you saw I think it was a quote from McGovern somewhere. I saw it written. I didn't actually hear it, but it was something like McGovern was smiling and he was telling, it might have actually been himself, but it was like, he was telling Wiedering to smile, and he's like, no, job's not done. And it's like, that is all you want to hear from these guys. And it shows the difference between these kind of defenders and probably the class. Like, Darcy Moore can do things that not many other defenders can do. And he's so vital for Collingwood's drive from his intercepts. But you make him actually have to defend, and look what happens. Another thing that Carlton haven't been able to do, my big question mark going into this game was, what are we doing with Darcy Moore? Because it feels like every time we come up against a really good intercept mark, we just play into their game style. We give them easy marks. We kick it to them the whole time. How are we going to change that? And for once, we finally exploited the weakness of the opposition, made him have to defend one-on-one, and Charlie just had them. They didn't know what to do. And it was just incredible that this guy, he's so far and away the best forward in the competition. He's close to the best player in the competition because, a couple of times got the better, but he's out of position so many times. And because you're worrying about him, you give away a free kick you shouldn't, or he gets in front, he gets the ball to ground, or he takes the mark. What are you going to do? You're going to have to give away a free kick at some stage because he's either doing that or he takes the mark. And
mate, can you imagine trying to stand on him? Sorry to cut you off. Sorry. Can you imagine trying to stand on him? How? What do you do? He's got speed for a forward. He's got the leap. He's scary to look at. Have you looked at him properly? He's a physical specimen. It's not a normal human. Oh, so good. And look, the thing about Charlie, there's a point I want to bring about Charlie, and then another one about the boys, is that we're seeing now the end of Buddy.
Mm.
Okay, with buddies at the end. Okay, and why this is so exciting for us is that I think this is really the beginning of Charlie. He had the injuries. He was the young star coming up, right? But now I think he's finally here. This is his Tom Hawkins emergence. This is his Jeremy Cameron emergence. This is his buddy Franklin emergence. This is the start, and we better enjoy it, mate, because before long, it's going to be the end of Charlie, and we're going to be asking, oh, can he get up this week? Can the old boy go again? Can he get us over the line one more time? He's near the end. So I think everyone, we just got to admire it, enjoy it, because it's the beginning. And before we know it, he'll be in Buddy's spot, and we'll be celebrating the champion that was Charlie Curnow. So
yeah. Oh, I love the point, because it makes me think as well, like seeing the Prendercast boys tweeting about Mark Murphy, and it just does make you think, like, wow, it was only a couple of years ago that all of a sudden you go, wow, the bloke from my childhood that was one of the first players I remember stepping into the doors and seeing his whole career play out. And it went like that so quickly, and it can again. And I wonder as well with Charlie at the moment, obviously he's had an incredible season backing up a Coleman last year, but you wonder through this little patch as well, now that Harry's not there with him, whether he's thinking, I have to really step up even more, and I have to take my game to another level as well, because now I'm the focal point. There's no other real key focal point in this forward line. We had Sauce that was helping, but now he's injured. Now it's De Koning that has to go down there to chop out as the only other tall. He's playing on 2-3 defenders, and he's still dominating them. Like, I have not seen a player do what Charlie is doing in this generation, where it feels like defenders have a bit more of an advantage because of the way you're able to set up and you're not getting the ball out in such distance and space. He's doing it with 4 blokes all over him and still taking the mark or winning the free kick. He's just a superstar.
I think, yeah, look, that's a great point. And it may be because Harry's not there. Charlie has matured, I think, before our eyes, and he's actually doing more selfless acts. Our small forwards and half forwards are more evolved than I've ever seen them in this team. And you can see, and I think it's in the work that he's doing. He's doing a lot of selfless stuff, the front and centers, bringing it to ground, maybe leading the best defender away sometimes. I think the absence of Harry has woken him up, and he's like, okay, I can't do this on my own every week. I'm going to have to bring boys with me. And I think he thrives on that now. Just hearing him speak, he's a bit of a leader now. So, mate, buckle up. Buckle up.
We've got to enjoy it. And another one who we've got to almost enjoy, because at any stage there could be some muscle tightness to this man's calves, any part of his body, and he might not play for a couple of weeks. Jack Martin, but wow. This is the Jack Martin we all hoped we would get, and he's been incredible. Comes in, and he's someone that has just added so much to this forward line in so many different ways. And you speak of the selfless things. That was something that I noticed on the replay watching that I didn't on the first viewing. The little times that Charlie needs a chop out and he's there putting on blocks, and he's been giving away a couple of free kicks with it, but he's doing it, and he's trying to give Charlie the space, and then to add the 3 goals, have 5 marks to be another target in that forward line. It's the pressure he's bringing. Everything Jack Martin is doing, working everywhere. It deserves a massive, massive shout out, because he's probably been one of the most maligned players out there. I've given it to him throughout the years of just wanting to see more from him, because we've known the talent's there, but I don't feel like the application has been. But I mean, what are you making of Jack Martin so far since he's sort of come back into this team? And what do you think him and the likes of Cunningham and Fogarty are adding to this forward mix right now?
Well, look, I think Martin's talent he's proven it now. Like, he's the reason Sauce worked so hard to get him out of Gold Coast. And I think these boys, I think that talent has always been there, especially with Martin and Cunningham. But I think they're actually maybe benefiting from a better system now. Like, these guys are more like cream of the crop players, and I think whatever Vossi and the boys have implemented is really allowing them to flourish. We just hope they stay fit, man. And they've just given us class, reliability. They hold their structures well. They know where to be. Silky smooth, beautiful ball use. Yeah, I think they're really benefiting from a much simpler and easy to follow system. They all look like they know what they're doing. They know what the next move is. They know what to do, when to do it. The ball spills here. I know who I'm giving it to. I know who's running beside me. Just that connection piece. That's those boys are bloody phenomenal. And Fogarty, I'm not going to forget the Fog, mate. I love the little nugget. Pressure, hits blokes, hits bodies, and I think it's rubbing off on Motlop a bit as well. I haven't seen Jesse Motlop lay tackles like that. The one where he pounced on Cameron.
that was a monster. There was so many of those little moments. Like Ollie Holland's had a couple as well, where like the guy is so skinny and so small, you don't expect him to be able to lay those kind of tackles, but they do, and it's just that spread from every single person that. I think last year, if Cunningham was into the team, there'd be much more of a magnifying glass on him. Same with Jack Martin. You'd be really looking into his performance and being like, how many touches did he get? What did he actually do this week? Whereas obviously it helps when you're winning games of football, but it doesn't seem like we're worrying about what each individual is doing and who maybe needs to get dropped this week, who needs to come in. It isn't about the individual. It's about that system that you're speaking about and that everyone knows their role, and obviously you can't to a degree, but it feels like you can plug in different players and you're getting that same output. And there is this competition for spots where a guy like Motlop, he wasn't in that team, and now every single time he's in there, he's fighting for it. And you're seeing the passion from him and always that in itself just needs to be highlighted as well. What did you make of the passion and the grabbing of the jumper from those lads?
I'm so glad you said that, because let's just cast your mind back round 23 last year. We all know what happened. Whatever. You see, tough man Josh Dacos post a picture of one of our lovely supporters and capture night, and our boys are shattered. But from a fan's point of view, all we hear is silence. Pre-season starts. They don't want to talk about it. Yeah, we know what happened and blah blah blah. But sorry if I'm rambling a bit, but. As a fan, you want them to care like you care about the rivalry and about losing to these teams. And maybe for a while we all thought maybe they don't care. Maybe it is just a job. Maybe it is just a job for them and they don't feel that heat. But seeing their reactions, man, on the siren, seeing the emotion from Sard, I never see Sard react like that. The hair, fists in the air, Cripper, all of them, their reactions, and it just proves to you that they care. I'm so happy that it is not just a job. Footy has this intangible sort of, tribalism to it, and it's more than just stats. It's more than results. It's what I mean. It's that feeling they care, and then Jesse Motlop posts a picture of himself. What was it? The only way is up.
Yeah, which was
in reference to Josh Dacos's posts. Yeah,
of that fan, you nail it. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I didn't have some of these things written down, but I was hoping to touch on them, because there's been so much spoken from opposition, and particularly Collingwood and their players, of Josh Dacos taking the piss out of us night. It's Carlton who gives a shit. It's Braden Maynard on that, whatever that bullshit thing is. It's the same thing that Edwards from Richmond was talking shit about us, being like, oh, yeah, I love Carlton, absolute rabble at the moment. Yeah, they're all playing us is the grand final and talking about this nonsense.
Yeah.
And why did they talk about that playing Carlton is our grand final? Because honestly, it might be. Because what happens in grand finals? We win. Collingwood absolutely couldn't shit. So I think maybe they need to start treating it as some sort of occasion. They might actually finally get a W there. But it happens. And you talk about, I absolutely took the piss out of Steel Sidebottom having a laugh earlier this season. Yeah. Oh, how many times did we kick it to Darcy Moore? And it's like the lack of respect. This has been something that's been in this competition for ages, and you sense it, you feel it, that they don't respect these boys. They don't respect this club. And to get a win like this against that team that gave us the heartbreak last year, round 23. It's sort of something I want to ends up segueing perfectly into the next thing, but this was the big test, and you go into this last quarter, 3-quarter time, we're up by 19 points. We've got the lead. It feels eerily similar to round 23. We're 24 points up in that game, and it felt like, not to talk too much about that game last year, but we just needed that one goal, and we probably would have won that game. There was so much feeling in it, and until we exercised those demons, that loss was going to haunt us, regardless of whether you wanted to admit that game still meant something or it didn't. It was going to, until we held on. So what were kind of your feelings, I guess, at 3-quarter time going into that last quarter? Were you confident? Were you nervous? Were you thinking back to that last game? Where were you sort of at going into that final term?
Mate, I was back in round 23 last year. I think I teleported somehow back in time, and I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, not again. Like, please, not again. And I was actually sitting with Terry. Of course, everyone knows Terry Blue Abroad, and he was very confident. And I looked at him like, "Are you stupid?" Oh, mate, and I was honestly shitting my pants. I was so scared, and Terry was confident. I was shaking, man. I was everything, and I just thought, please, God, if there's anything out there, not again. And then, what did we kicked the first couple? Did we?
First
I think
three
there was
goals
that
of that quarter.
that Jesse Motlop goal, mate. The hugs I exchanged with Terry, the screaming, like, oh, I think I nearly ripped his jacket at one point. We were going off because that was it. Like, you knew that was it. And it was just so good. Like, from a playing point of view, how they just kept playing. There was no nervousness. I'm telling you, there's just calmness about them now. They didn't shake at all. And that's huge. And look, I obviously can't read their minds, but they didn't forget last year.
Yeah.
They care. They really bloody care. And maybe I mistook their silence for lack of care. But clearly not, mate. Clearly not. What about you? Were you confident? Were you what?
Oh,
let me have it.
Not. Absolutely not. Like, anyone that's watched football with me knows that I am like the most nervous person ever. It's brought into me from my grandparents that they are the generation that obviously listen on the radio, and when they watch it on the TV, they have to turn it off if it gets close and chuck it on the wireless because they can't watch it. They get so stressed. And I feel like that's been built into me, where even if probably I didn't have the trauma from last year, I probably still would have been nervous anyway. But they flash up on the screen that, Collingwood, they're the comeback specialists. It's all in the commentary. 12 of their last 16 games, they have won trailing at 3-quarter time. And this is what they do. And you're just thinking, okay, we need to start. And there are some stats I have from this game talking about the ability to sort of absorb the pressure. I'm trying to find where I've written this down because, first quarter, Pies kick the first 2 goals. We come back, kick 2 goals, respond, level at quarter time. Second quarter, McCrory kicks the first one. What do? We respond, we kick the next 4 goals. And that was when we really opened this up. Third quarter, within a minute, Dacos kicks a goal again. It feels like old Carlton crumbles when these things happen, when the opposition get that first goal. Collingwood get the momentum. Fourth quarter, we go out, have the plan to kick the first 3 goals. I just think was massive to really set that tone. And then even when Jeremy Howe kicks those 2, and I'll be honest, I was still shitting myself because I was like, of course, now they've chucked Jeremy Howe forward. He's now kicking him out of nowhere. And the worst part was I was looking at the score and going, fuck, if Collingwood kick just straight goals here, they win this game by a point. And that was then hurting me even more. But it was just straight away from that. He kicks 2, we go down, Charlie kicks 1. And there was just this ability throughout this game to absorb that pressure. Like in the third quarter, I have this stat again somewhere. Inside 50s was 17-6. We lost inside 50s in that third quarter, and we outscored them by 2 points. this is the maturity that I think we're talking about that is so evident in this game. And so in that last quarter to then turn this around and not have this flurry of goals kicked on us, to continue the contested pressure around it, that is just something that it sets the tone for us going forward. And I loved the Collingwood supporters on socials afterwards, because I've never known a fan base that gives out so much but can't take anything of it. And we've obviously been holding all the receipts after last year, and we were dishing it out. I still felt like I was holding it in because I'm like, it's round 20. It still doesn't maybe mean as much, so I'm still holding in a couple until we beat him in a final. But for us to get that monkey off our back was just, it was massive. And yeah, the socials were going off, and I absolutely loved every single second of it. Right,
mate. They that fan base, I'm going to say here, they're pathetic. Who leaves early when you're top of the ladder? You've barely lost the game all bloody year, and you're leaving early. Like, excuse me. What?
There's one club that you'd think with minutes to go, they'd be confident they could come into it and you stay to the very end. But no, apparently Collingwood, they can't handle it. They cannot handle anything. And the responses that I was getting was just laughable. And they were trying to bring out the, oh, well, guess what? I'll show you the Jamie Elliott goal. Look at this. We still kicked you out of finals last year. Look at this. And the best part about it is I'm laughing at every single thing that they're throwing at us, because that game, and I don't know if I'm just speaking for myself here, so I'm keen to get your thoughts, but round 23 means nothing. It was in the past, so it doesn't mean anything anyway. But now that we have exercised the demons and we've beaten them in the manner that we did with all the outs, they're playing the best football. They've just beaten the only other contender that the AFL was building up this season. What does that mean anymore? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Mate, I said that exact thing on the fan cam. Of that because they didn't win the flag last year.
Yeah.
That win means nothing at all. It's gone. Poof. We've avenged it. It's never to be spoken about or fucking watched again. Like, who cares? Yeah. That's it. That's bloody it. Mate, there's something. So I listened to an interview from Wiedering. I think it was on SEN, and they asked him about the camp. And he's pretty much said, yeah, we went down there with honest conversations, blah, blah, blah. But then he said something that stuck with me. He goes, there were some conversations that I didn't like. So he's obviously been told that he wasn't good performing his role good enough. And if they're telling Wiedering that, who's a leader, then I have full faith in whoever is leading this club, because that was something that earlier in the year we didn't think was happening. They're too scared to be honest with each other. They're tiptoeing, eggshells. But I thought that stuck out, and I'm like, wow. Someone's told him, hey, Weeders, lift your game, you've been shit, essentially. So I just loved it. And that whole rough patch, what was it for? That's the question I've got here. Like, what was it for? Cripper mentioned something. I can't remember where I saw it. It was probably after the Hawks game or the Gold Coast game. And he said the phrase, it's not what's happening to me, but why is it happening for me? That's a skipper, mate.
Yeah.
He's relayed that to the whole group. And I was very harsh on Cripper. I was getting to the areas that maybe he should give up the captaincy because I just wasn't seeing it. And that's the thing. Like, look, I can't blame anyone for how they were feeling. You can only judge on what you see. And I don't begrudge anyone for not wanting to have blind faith anymore. To me, they have to show me. They have to prove it. They have to shove it in my face and say, Jad, shut your mouth. Here it is. And they've done it. And Cripper, that phrase, not why is this happening to me? You can apply this to your life. It's not why it's happening to me. Yeah. Why is it happening for me? What is this meant for? And they've come out the other end of it, mate. And they've obviously channeled all that shit that happened into positiveness. We've just beaten second and first on the ladder, mate. The Blues, we're here, we've arrived. This is it.
In 3 weeks. It's ridiculous, the turnaround.
So proud.
Even me, who, I mean, you were talking about it when we were chatting just before we started recording, saying that I feel like this podcast, me and Lockie, it's spoken about as being like the more positive side of things, always trying to look for that sort of glass half full rather than glass half empty. And I love that comes across, because that's definitely something that I feel like we try to push to an extent, obviously try to be realistic as possible. But that challenge, that period this year where we have those 6 losses in a row, we win one? It was like 1 out of like 9 games or something ridiculous. And I was at that point as well, where I had lost that just blind. You go and you think we're going to win and you go for it. Yeah, I was still going to the game. The Gold Coast one was big. Dad came down from WA for it, so obviously was always going to go to it. And that's kind of just me. I feel like I have to be at the game. Even though I know I don't maybe have that effect, I feel like if I yell, if I do something, maybe that will have a 1% that gets them over the line. But even I was questioning everything, thinking that this is it. We're not going to turn this around. I don't have the belief in the leadership, the players. I'm questioning every single part of this football club until, like you, I see something that fixes it. And for them to do it, for them to turn it around, and those conversations, like, that's such an interesting insight that, you know, they didn't enjoy those conversations. And that is a level of, I feel like maturity is the buzzword of this episode, but that is something that you maybe haven't expected from these lads. And you talk about the leaders. I felt that in this last quarter, when you need everyone to stand up, but you need your leaders to do it, I thought that was the impressive part, where Chera had dominated that first half. He goes off. Cripper steps up. 6 disposals in that last quarter. 6 tackles. 4 clearances. Those couple of moments where he just goes through a pack, has 4 blokes hanging off him, gets through, gets the clearance. Like, Cripper knows the moment and he steps up. You have Doherty, puts his body on the line multiple times, gets cleaned up, comes back, does it again the next time. And if there's one moment that was my favourite that game, it was his smother, his block of that Dacos handball when Collingwood is streaming through. Just blocks it straight through. And we were doing that all day, and that summed it up. And then you even look at Charlie that we've touched on. 3 of his 6 goals come in that last quarter when you need someone down forward to step up. Our leaders, those players that you hope when there's a moment on this game, they step up. And I could talk about Wiedering. I could talk about Nick Newman that we haven't even touched on yet, who was one of my favorites.
How could we forget Newey?
Somehow we've gone almost an hour. I haven't spoken about Nick Newman. There's so much to cover in this massive win. All those players that have been there for years that we've all questioned seem to have stood up in this period. And I'm so proud that it felt like we're just so much more smarter and more composed in this game of football. And even like a little moment, I feel like I'm rambling now, but there was one.
No, you're not. Go.
Gov passes back to Cottrell in the goal square, and Cottrell just does the cheeky fumble through.
And and the smirk.
Where Collingwood had a bit of momentum. They were trying to get some goals there, and we finally had the wherewithal to just put one through. Even after dealing with the Marchbank free kick, where sometimes you feel the Carlton of old would, okay, we've just got to keep the ball alive. We've got to keep it in. We're doing those little things now. And yeah, seeing all these little moments come together that you can pick out throughout this game, it just makes this win bigger than just a round 20 win against a team in AFL. It's massive.
I think my favourite moment was the Crips inside 50 to the Motlop goal, 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Dacos, little scared of the contest. Dacos jumps on him. He shrugs him off like a fly. Side bottom comes in, shrugs him off like a fly, bangs the ball forward. Martin, nice little gather. Motlop, front on banana. Don't even know how he kicked it like that. Have you seen that kick?
I've seen the behind the goals footage. It's like, how did that go where you kicked it with the?
It was like a front on snap. He front on snapped it somehow. I don't understand this bloke, but Jesus Christ, mate! Like that passage, because like with Cripper, when they were jumping on him, like those 2 flogs jumping on him, and he shrugged them off. It was like it's like it's not happening today, boys.
Yeah.
Come at me. It's not happening today. This ball's going forward. You can't come with me. You can't do it. And there's just so many players, mate. Yeah. Nick Newman just decided he's bloody elite somehow. Like he's just decided he's going to be a goat. Like, well, I don't know what's happened there, but he's like Andrew Mackie, but better.
Oh, and the best part about this, that it always seems to happen to me, and I love it, and I'm so happy to wear it. It's the funniest part of this podcast is whatever take you have, it's there living forever. Someone can go back and find your worst ever take, and it sits there. Like I had a couple of years ago, I said Kennedy mid-season review. I said he's done. Delist him. Then has the greatest second half of the season, cements himself into our midfield, and now he's a gun. And I said before this season, we were doing best 22s. I still love Nick Newman, and I still had him on the cusp, but I didn't have him in my best 22 at the start of the season. I said, I still think there's a couple of people above him. He has his deficiencies. He's getting a little bit older. He's still, he's getting near that 30. Either other players taking over his role. And I could not be more happy to put my hand up and say, I'm a fucking idiot and I know nothing about football because Nick Newman
neither do I.
All Australian form right now. The fact he's not really getting spoken about by anyone outside of Carlton just shows you that the media don't watch enough football or they don't understand it.
No, they don't.
Every single thing that Nick Newman does right now is gold, whether it's the defensive effort, the little quick handballs, the intercept marks. He is just another one of those generals down defense that we need these guys to step up, and he's just doing it in spades. What have you kind of seen in the shift of Nick Newman this year?
Look, with Newey, he was always like a decent kick, right? Yeah. I never really thought he was a bad kick. He's a nice kick. He's a competent player from Sydney, and I remember when we got him, I had this Essendon mate who texted me, and he says that you've just got a pretty handy player, and pretty handy is what I expected, but it's like they've given him more responsibility, and he's just thrived because he's going up to the back of stoppage now. He's getting some CBAs. He's a real leader. He's just the beautiful kick on him. He's just competent. He's always there. He knows where he needs to be. What I've seen him, I'll just love him, mate. He reminds me of Andrew Mackie. When Andrew Mackie was at his best at Geelong, but I think he's more skilled than Mackie ever was. Just fantastic. It's so good to have a player like that. We just keep unearthing these blokes. And another one I'll throw back at you. The most old-fashioned footballer I think I've seen in a long time. Chincotta.
Yeah.
This bloke just, mate, like, okay, he's not lighting the world on fire, but you know it. You know it when you see it. He can use both sides of his feet. Clutch 55-meter bombs, drop punts, playing his role, always there. I love the ricotta. I love what he's doing, mate. Yeah. I love players like that. It's fantastic. What have you seen something like that in Chincotta that you like?
Oh, definitely. And I feel like that's when I feel like you start to age a little bit as a fan, when your favorite players become these guys, the guys that are doing those harder roles. Because I remember seeing a little bit in preseason, obviously watching so much of him in that VFL year, the year before he gets selected for us. And you're like, yeah, really handy, but the jump to AFL is so much. And because of his age, you're thinking probably not AFL quality. But I remember watching the Carlton Collingwood preseason game, and there were just a few moments where he has that burst and he goes through and he hits a target, and then he has the tackle pressure. And you're just thinking, if he can get up to the speed of AFL football, he's that perfect. And I didn't maybe have him as high as he is right now. I had him as that little depth player that if there's an injury to a defender, he can come in and play that back pocket defensive role, or he can play as the rebounding halfback. He feels like, in a way, like a little Nick Newman light, where he's that other guy that you can throw in a multitude of those defensive positions and gets his opportunity early in the season. He probably did look like a bit of a VFL footballer where he had little flashes, but was a bit slow. But now he's acclimatized. He's kicking goals. He's got a ridiculous foot, whether it's on the run or by set shot. He's got the passion that we've taken that gamble on him. And
I love
go
this.
back to the little. Oh, he does it every time, and you hear that interview when he gets selected, saying like, "I'm going to go to war for you boys." And sometimes you think, are they just saying that? He's not. He's not one of those blokes that just says it. He's there. And no, I've loved what we've seen from a Chin Cotter, and it's these guys that they're not the first round draft picks. They've had to fight for it, and it feels as if the more of these kind of characters we're getting around it, even a Cunningham to an extent now, that he's fighting for his career. He knows that his shoulder probably needs surgery and his body's not there. And at any stage he could get another injury and that could be his career done. That maybe has filtered its way in. And maybe there's that part of that conversation. Like you talk about Wiedering. Maybe someone's gone up to him and said, mate, we're not all number one draft pick superstars that everything's just handed to us. Oh, here, you're a leader of this football club. You're a superstar. No, I've had to fight for it. So you need to pull your finger out and actually do these other little things. You can't just order and bark everyone else around when you're not doing it yourself. And you wonder if those little parts of conversations are had with those people in this football club that have had to scrap for everything. And it feels like we've finally got this nice dynamic of guys that have been the more superstar pin-up boys of the AFL, and now we've unearthing all these more nuggety types. So I just love the role players we're bringing through right now.
That's such a good point. I didn't even think of that. With lesser like players maybe going up to a Wiedering or a Cripps and saying to them, hey, you've been a bit selfish here. We all know you're the big dog, but hey, let's just become more of a team, service me, feed me. If I'm in a better position than you can be, that's a great point. That's probably what's happened, mate. That's probably exactly what's happened. And just how much more time we got? Because I don't know. I don't know when to stop.
We can go for as long as we want. I've still got votes. I've still got stuff to go through. There's no time.
Beautiful.
As long as you're good to go, we can keep these going.
Yeah. All right,
I'm very much known to ramble on and make these podcasts go for about 3 hours. But yeah, was there anything else?
I'm sure you've.
Because I'm happy to go to votes. If not,
one more for you. Sorry. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen the footage of Holland, yeah? Holland's?
Yeah.
Making that defensive run. And have you seen the Jack Martin one on the other side at the same time? Mate, that's system.
Yeah.
That is just, I don't even remember the last time I saw that from any Carlton player. They were pretty much in sync. The same run, opposite ends of the ground, both coming up and intercept. That's just fantastic. Wonderful coaching, wonderful.
What I loved so much from Holland's point of view was, and it's just so simple, but it's probably what we've been missing on those wings is, if you look, it's just a straight line run. It is so simple, but how many times would a player instead get sucked into the contest or see an opposition player and maybe go, oh, maybe I can impact here and get the touch. It doesn't feel like they're worrying about that anymore. It's my job is to run this straight line and be the option if the play opens up, because this is where I need to be. This is where the coaches have said I need to be. And for those two to then have the work rate, to want to run, it sums up that game. And when they get their opportunities, Hollands has just gone back, taken that spoil, gets in it again, and just hits him on the chest just perfectly with a beautiful kick, finds Jack Martin. It's just those little moments that we're enjoying now. And I feel like as a fan base, we've matured as well. Like we still love the Charlie Curnow kicks from 60, but these are the things that the media team realize that we want to see. The hard running from our players, that's what we enjoy. And it just feels like we've come such a long way all together throughout this season. It's been ridiculous.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. It's just the beginning.
100%. So let's jump into the votes. I'll plug it in here. I've got Lockie. I got him in somehow, tracked him down, got the international investigators, the private eyes to find him, find where he is in Europe. And we've got a little bit of a video from Lockie to give his thoughts on this game and to give his vote. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it's about to happen. If you're listening in podcast form, it will be playing right now for you. Here is the great man, Lockie.
G'day everyone, hope you've been well. I thought I'd put together just a little snippet because this game definitely deserves it, and I am pretty sad that I'm not able to do the podcast properly with Ian. think the last one I did was the mid-season episode, and so a fair bit has happened since then, since we were breaking down the season, and pretty much talking about finals being off the table to where we are now. So I've been watching every game on my phone here. I'm in Croatia at the moment, just been going around Europe since then. So I've been watching the games on my phone. I'm not going to pretend that I can analyse these games properly watching it on a mobile, but the love is stronger than ever because, I can't really think of a time where I felt like this about our team in such a long time. Like, there was obviously so many great things last year. Like Ian and I always talk about, like, so many different monkeys that we got off our back. But something that we really didn't do last year was get the dubs over the best teams. And through this stretch, like, we started getting some wins on the board against the weaker teams. The Freo game was obviously a great scalp. Then we get Port, and people still don't give us the credit because of the resting and the injuries and whatever. But then this game is just like that massive tick, and I was still so stressed watching this game, sitting in the airport on my phone. But God, just the love that I have for this group is just so immense. Every single one of these players, it just makes me so happy seeing all of their faces, the way that they celebrated after the game, the relief on their faces. Like, it's just another monkey off our back, I think, on the way to us getting that number 17. So I believe that it's soon. Never stop believing, as you guys all know. And we said that we'd turn it around, and we have. And I believe that we can keep going from here. So Ian's doing a fantastic job with the pod. I've been listening to every single one. Keep the guests coming. I'll chat to you all soon. It's been some time since I've given my votes, but I'll chuck them in anyway in case Ian wants to use them. You're welcome, mate. Charlie for 3, obviously. Even though there's so many blokes that I want to give votes to and so many guys that were outstanding, like, it just, kicking 6 like that against more, after people, non-Carlton people belittled his 10 because it was against West Coast, and, that he was going to be an unworthy Coleman winner and all that. He just went bang. So, we couldn't have done it without that. Wiedering for the 2 votes, I think just unbelievable. This form that he's in compared to where he was at the start of the season, we can't, talk about that enough, I don't think. And then it's got to be Ian's man, Nick Newman for the 1. It's crazy the season that he's put together as well. One of the most underrated guys in the entire league, I would have thought. So that's me.
So I hope you enjoyed his bit of insight there. It was absolutely unreal. The magic of editing means that has gone right there. If I remember, it'd be pretty embarrassing if we get to the end of this and there was just a pause because I haven't put it in. But no, we love the great Lockie. But I need to see, and I need your votes, Jad, because we love to do a bit of a tally at the end of the year. And I'm keen to see where you line up with what we've been doing. Who did you give your 3, 2, and 1 votes to this week?
It's hard. Look, 3 to Charlie. You can't ignore it. Speaks for itself. 2. Look, mate, I'm going to go far out. I'm going to go Jack Martin.
Yeah.
Sorry if that's too left field, but
no, don't.
The work he's doing, the selflessness, he's become dead-eye dick in front of goal now. Fantastic. And then the 1 is going to go to Jacob.
Yeah.
Just think he's fully back now. He's in his own. They weren't getting through him at all. Just bullied them. Fantastic.
No, really good votes. It's so hard to pick it just down to 3. Potentially next year we might have to put this out to a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because there's so many players I want to throw into it because Jack Martin's a snub for me. But I think I mentioned on the Blue Abroad fan cams, big shout out to them, that he's probably one of my favorite players to watch right now, which feels weird to say with a guy like Charlie Curnow in there with so many superstars, but just the little movements of Jack Martin excites me. But I've given the 1 vote to Jacob Wiedering because of just the commanding defense, the organization. It's every little thing from him. It's the difference between him and a Darcy Moore. Wiedering can take the intercept marks, but he knows how to lock down on an opposition defender and actually defend them, take the spoils, do the simple things. He gets the 1. 2 I gave to Nick Newman because I thought he was just everywhere and stepping up when we needed him to. And the 3 is obviously for Charlie. You can't go past 6 goals against Collingwood in a massive, massive game of football. And the tally, the thing that people want to hear, I'll give you 5th to 1st as it stands. Got a few rounds to go, and it is ridiculously close right at the pointy end. In 5th at the moment with 13 votes is Jacob Wiedering sliding through there. At 4th with 18 is Nick Newman. What a season he's having. In 3rd with 23 votes is Sam Walsh. Him being out at the moment means a lot of movement could be happening around there. And then we've got a tie currently in 1st with 35 votes each. It's Charlie Curnow and it's Adam Chera. This is the first week that Charlie Curnow has moved into the number 1 spot, tying Adam Chera. Someone that if he played the full game probably would have had the 3 himself. Stiff not to get it. At the time of recording, it's been said that he's got a bit of a strain to that hamstring, will be gone for that 2 to 3, similar to Sam Walsh. Leaves it open. Can Newman make a quick run home? Can Charlie hold on? It's going to be very exciting to see who takes home the medal this year, but we've kind of danced around this a little bit. And I was maybe going to take the question away because we're running long, but let's go for it. What's changed so far from the poor 6-week run to this amazing 6-week run? I've kind of asked all the guests that I've had on this question because I'd love to get a different insight from every single person. There's seemingly been a bit of a different response, and just kind of wanting to know what you think has been and led to the turnaround from us sitting bottom 4 to now, holy shit, we might be able to make finals and do some damage in finals. What has kind of been the big drivers of change of the form that you've seen, and where do you think that this is all stemmed from?
Look, outside looking in, man, I can only kind of relate it to my own experiences, sort of thing. But I think it's all probably changed when they started being honest with each other. I think that's where it stemmed from. I think the players honest with each other. I think they were honest with the coaches. The coaches were honest back to them. I think they weren't afraid to tell each other, hey, this is shit. Change it. This is not how we want to play. And then maybe the coach was a bit back with, well, you're not doing what we want. So, of course, maybe that's the reason why it's shit. I think it just stems of genuine honesty. And now you have bonds with people. And I think like the difference between a really good friend and a stranger, or someone that you just meet on a night out, is honesty. You know each other. You're not afraid to say what needs to be said. And going off Wiedering's words, he had some conversations that he didn't like himself. I think that's what's happened. Just pure honesty.
It's interesting that you also point out the conversation with the coaches. I think that's something that probably gets overlooked quite a lot, because there's clearly been a big change and shift in the way that we are playing. Lekdog last week was quick to bring up a couple of different elements of how we seem to be changing defensively and bringing the line up a little bit more and winning the ball higher up the ground as well to start that rebound. And you look at Vossi, coaching. The club can say all they want, but he was coaching for his career. He loses that Gold Coast game. He loses the Hawthorn game. Probably curtains. And so he has to look at himself and say, well, what do I want to do? Is this how we want to play football? Is this how he wants to communicate with his players? And I think you've probably nailed it. I think that's where, if I can nail it down to one thing, that's what I'm thinking as well, is that honesty in those chats and the conversations, in needing to trigger this buy-in from every single person to be aligned. And it's such an interesting discussion. I can't wait for maybe in a few years to truly find out what's been the driver, what was said in these things that have turned it. And hopefully it is for a bigger reason, because we end up winning a flag. But I turn now to the listener questions. We've got a fair few from the listeners, so let's get into it. We've got one here from Adrian Salerno, Big Soj, the newsbreaker himself on this podcast, always finding a new bit of information that we love to see. He says, we are currently the number 1 offensive side in the league over the past 4 weeks. In hindsight, do you think those losing weeks actually served us for the better? I do feel it was a real discovery phase for us, and now the boys can see it, like when Neo could see the Matrix. And It's been a bit of a question I've asked at times as well. Do you feel like we needed this to change? We needed that bad 6 weeks? Or I guess has that kind of 6 weeks been a bit of a waste of time in us losing all of those games, to kind of piggyback onto Big Soldier's question?
No, what right now does not happen without those 6 weeks, and it sucks that we had to endure that, but it doesn't happen without it. Look what it led to. Conversations I didn't like, Wiedering, that camp at the Kernos. Look, mate, Cripper, he said it. It's not why is it happening to me, it's why is it happening for me. So I think we're blessed that we've got good leaders who are able to channel it in the right way. So no, that 6 weeks, if that didn't happen, we're not sitting here right now so happy and cloud nine. So it's 100%.
No, I love it. Great response. Next one we have from, and I'm going to botch the pronunciation of this Twitter handle here. It is Macamee Day, I believe it is 32, asks, I could feel the hurt from last year's game and our boys using that to our advantage. Do you think that the 1 point loss is the thing to get us through this final series? I certainly have played that game throughout this week. What are your thoughts? Do you feel like the failure of that is helping to drive the fact that they know how quickly things can turn? You see them now in that kind of, I guess, end of a game, learning on how to hold on and not just falling behind. Do you feel like they're drawing from that, or do you think it is from other areas?
No, look, they're human. They'd have to draw off it, wouldn't they? No one wants to go through that ever again, especially to the filth. So once again, everything happens for a reason, and we're just happy we've got good people there who are able to channel it in the right way. Like, I don't know what more I can say, but 100%. They didn't forget. Let's put it that way. They did not forget. No way. They kept those receipts deep down. Oh, Jesse didn't forget. Nah, 100%. No one forgot.
Yeah, good. I think it's a good thing. I wish it would have come at that stage. That at the end of that is when the conversation stemmed, when they realized what it took and that they were able to build the confidence off them. But it's a journey. It's not just going to happen straight away. I'm glad it seems to have turned, and it goes straight to this next question from Soros Boy, who says, and I have to give big credit to Lockie throughout this period as well, because he says, I think it was around round 9 or 10, Lockie said something along the lines of, I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly everything just clicked and we turned it around. So how good does it feel that we have turned it around? And I just want to jump in again before I ask the question. It's what I seem to do on this thing, but I have to give a big shout out to Lockie throughout this period, because after that Essendon game, through the mid-season review, I was in that dark place of, I don't think these boys can turn it around. And even though it felt like it was at that point where could click at any instance, I was losing the faith, and Lockie was the main driver on this podcast as that voice of keeping that positive flame. So big credit to him in never really completely losing the faith and being able to keep me sane through that period, because it was tough and it was hard to just think that things would turn around. But yeah, I just got to ask, how's it feel that things are finally looking good for us?
So I wish you would have messaged me when he was giving you that positivity, mate. I was down a well. I was into the pits of despair. Like, there was no way back. How does it feel? Are you kidding me, mate? I've barely slept since Friday.
Yeah.
It feels incredible. And it's just vindication. It's Carlton people. You didn't go through that 6 years for nothing. And people who aren't Carlton supporters can watch this and they can say that's an overreaction, blah, 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 but I don't care.
Yeah.
It's true. And they'll see it in the coming years. They'll see. They know we're coming.
They're smelling what the Blues are cooking. That's all I'm saying. But no, like, it does. It feels from the outside so dramatic to look at this win in isolation and just say, well, you still might miss out on finals. You still haven't sewn that up, everything in it. But we have not had this win of significance. It goes back to what we were talking about at the start of this episode of the doubts that were put on this 6 run of games that we've won of it's West Coast, whatever. It was this team, whatever. Port rested players. There was always something. You can't have that with this. This was the team that gave us the hurt, the team that we had to overcome. This was the one. And to do it in the manner like you were talking about, the way the performance was, it's why this means so much. And for us to go through so much heartache, it's that reminder of why you do it. These are the games. This is what it is to just go on social media or find your mates and just absolutely give it to them and give it back because of everything. It's the fun part of it. And if Collingwood supporters can't handle it, well, give it to them twice as much. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Got a great question here from the great Timmy Dub, who says, what are some stats that confirms our defensive unit is just superb? They are absolutely humming at the moment. Not sure if you have any stats or just any insight into talking about the great defensive unit right now.
Look, I don't have any stats in front of me, to be honest, but just on the eye test, like I mentioned to you before, the way Wiedering is now screaming at people, get in your bloody position, that just shows you that they've all got that clarity. You know, that connection. They always talk about connection. That back 6 knows exactly what to do, when to do it. Saad's got the ball, I run here. Wiedering's got the ball on his right foot, I go here. Back, but like they're just connected. And the defense is it's the sum of its parts though. That's what it's the team that's making it tick. There's just doesn't look like there's any ego there anymore. So, but no, I don't have any stats, but that's just the eye test, mate. I don't know. Do you have any stats there?
I do have a couple that I looked up because of this question. But you nail it as well. Talking about, like, we've had Boyd through there. Chincotta's been in and out of that as well. Caleb Marchbank steps up, and it feels again this next man up mentality. Doesn't matter who you throw into that structure, it works, and you find different little things. Now Marchbank adds a bit more intercept that maybe allows someone else to step up and play a slightly different role, and there's just so much to it. And I had a bit of a look because I saw on Twitter that Nathan Buckley threw out some stats saying that over the last 6 weeks, our defense is ranked in the top 4. Now, I'll have to talk shit about Nathan Buckley here. He didn't say we were ranked number 4. He said we were ranked in the top 4, which feels weird. A weird wording. I assume it means top 4. It means number 4. Otherwise, you would have said we're the 3rd ranked. But thanks for not giving me the clarity in these champion data hidden behind some sort of paywall that we're not allowed to access stats there, Nathan Buckley. But I think what's also impressive from those stats is that if we're ranked number 4 for defense, over the same 6-week period, we're ranked number 1 in offense. So the fact that we've been able to have that balance that drives everything is really interesting to look at. And then I did a bit more of a deep dive to maybe not look at the defenses as a whole, but the team and looking at just raw tackle numbers, because you look at the pressure that I feel like has built this whole team defense to allow the back 6 or 7 to really utilize their game. The last 6 weeks in our wins, we've averaged 70.2 tackles per game. When you look at the 6 weeks prior in those losses, we averaged 53.3 tackles per game.
70 tackles a game.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. Wow. Outliers in that have thrown it out there. There was a Hawthorn game where there was 87 tackles and things like that. That sort of bumps things up. But in those games, we had 64, 62, 67, 72, 87, 69 in our tackles. And when you look at it as well, I'll go a little bit deeper. Gold Coast game were plus 18 tackles, plus 5 tackles inside 50. Hawthorn plus 7 tackles. Freo lost the tackle count by 3, but inside 50 tackles, plus 11. Port plus 2 tackles. West Coast plus 18, and then plus 3 inside 50. And then Collingwood, it's plus 10, and then plus 6 inside 50s to rattle ridiculous numbers off. That's impressive to me because these are games we have dominated the possession. We've dominated the game and the outcome. So to do that and win the tackle count in them by those big numbers, it just shows you this buy-in, the pressure. For me, that just stems across the board of why we're playing so well and why the defense is holding up.
And just one quick one on that. Look at the inclusion of Marchbank. He hadn't played for how long? I was a bit worried when I saw him on the
Played like
sheet.
one game
And then
the
he
year
hit,
before or something.
yeah, and they just plug and play him in the defence, and it was seamless. I've never seen that with a Carlton side. Wow, just that, take a lot out of that too.
It's beautiful. Good that you bring that up. We've got a couple of questions left. One from Superbad who asks, what are you boys doing in September?
Camping at the G, baby. That's it. Getting a tent. Anyone recommend any tents? I'm going to have to sleep outside.
Yeah, anyone work at like an Anaconda or something that can hook us up with a bit of a discount? Get us the free tents, or what are we doing here?
Maybe Blue Corner sponsorship. Let's go.
Please. I'll take anything at this stage. Genuinely, hit us up at Navy Blue Corner. Get the email, the Navy Blue Corner at gmail.com. Links are everywhere. Hit us up if you do want to sponsor. We are more than happy to. But I love the September question because it makes me realize that maybe there's that bit of vindication because the start of the year was booking a bit of a holiday, was originally meant to be July. And I went, no, footy's on. This is how sick I am.
Man.
Lockie can take a step back and be like, no, I'm going to enjoy Europe over summer. I can still come back and make sure I'm – but even him, he's like, I've got to be back for September. I've got to be back for finals. And me looking at the holiday, I had to book it for mid-October going, I can't. No. If we play finals, I've got to be there. I've got to see it happen. So that's how nuffy you get on this podcast that we're booking our holidays.
You can go overseas whenever you want. You can go whenever you want. You know, if you miss our first ever finals, appearance, you'll never forgive yourself. Just stay right here. You just sit down, get a cup of tea, get a tent, meet me at the G, get our tickets. Done.
And speaking of tents, we've got a good one here from Tim Gigantor who says, can we all have a barbecue at Ed's place? Can this happen? If we win the flag, are we going to Ed's? Is that what's going on?
Mate, what hard truths are we going to label at each other? Mate, your lighting, going to tell you, your lighting sucks. That's what it's going to be. Nah, kidding.
It's not good. It's not good. If you see it, it's a big IKEA lamp that just goes straight at the wall and bounces it off, and it doesn't do me good. I don't have the triple settings that you were able to show.
Oh, mate, this thing is elite, isn't it? Look at that, all the different colours. Nah, I'm only joking. If
you're able to sponsor this podcast, there'll be funds in. I can afford some new lights. This is what it's about, upping the production value. But those are the hard truths that need to come out. But yeah, Ed, we win the grand final. Every single member, we're coming to yours with tents, and we're going to have a lovely, lovely time. And last question, which again, the listeners, they're smart. They're very smart people because they somehow are able to segue parts of the run sheet that I hadn't even written yet. They just knew where I wanted to go with things. And the great Paul Barbaza gets this
Paul, shout
in
out.
the right place. He asked 4 weeks left. Will they make it all count for something? Because I want to talk about the run to finals. We got 4 games to go. We've run 6 in a row. It looks like we only need 2 of the last 4. Don't think that that's the mentality we need to have, but those are just the raw numbers. Got a few questions. I'll spit at you. Answer them whenever you want. Feel free to let me hit them back up to you if you forget them. But do we make top 8? How do we make the top 8? What needs to happen for us to make finals? And how much do you believe that we can make finals?
So I believe we can 100% make finals. Not even a question. What do I think needs to happen? We have to beat St Kilda, which is what I am. People can come at me. I'm very, very worried, and I'm very nervous about this freaking club, this team that is St Kilda. In my mind, we beat them, we're going to make it. Like, it's done. Beat them, we're in. Because, Melbourne, we can beat Melbourne. Even if we lose to Melbourne, we've got Gold Coast up there, we've got GWS. The mentality of this group says to me that they're not going to let it slip this time. It's not going to happen. But the Saints game, mate, that's I'm already thinking about it, and I'm getting a bit I'm getting a bit nervous.
Yeah, it's... God, I hate St Kilda. And it was funny.
Oh,
I did a match build up last time, and the old Saints TV are coming into the comments, let me know that they hate us as well. So it's good to know that they listen and they will give us an extra couple of views. And even on the review show, I had some St Kilda supporters in the comments. So thanks for the engagement. Thanks for upping the views on YouTube. Really appreciate that. Definitely helps the channel out. But they just are something. I feel like they ruined my childhood by pumping us every single time with the big G train and Nick Rewalt kicking. I swear they kick like 10 each every single time. But there's just something about that mob that every single time we play them, they turn it on. And they've got such annoying nothing footballers that have their best game every single time. Now Membry looks like he's going to be good to play. King's back for the game. It just happens every single time. But I kind of agree with you. We kind of need this momentum to carry on. As much as I agree with you, I believe we'll make finals. This group is going to get it done. There is that element of if we drop the St Kilda game, then you got the Melbourne game, and then do doubts creep in. Then are there question marks again going, oh no, it's the same scenario. We need to win, one of the next two or whatever it ends up being. We need to win both of the games. Feels like the momentum just needs to keep going. And that's how I'm feeling right now. I've just got this weird feeling that we beat St Kilda, we beat Melbourne. I think it's Gold Coast next. I feel like we lose that game because we've just worked so hard, pushed ourselves to the brink to get us in that position. And then we'll have that 1 week where we're just exhausted because we're making sure that this is secured. And then we go out last round, get the W. That's my weird, bold prediction. But I think there is, again, it turns to that next game, the we go again mentality, the Paolo, we move. That's what it's about. Saying how quickly it shifts from the Collingwood game straight to the next one right now.
Yeah. Especially against these pricks, mate. I'm so sick of Tim Membry having his freaking day out against us. I'm so over it. I'm so over their footballers who look like they work at bloody Aldi, thinking that they're AFL footballers, and they think that freaking I'm just over them. They need to be the sword needs to be put to them. But what worries me is Ross Lyon. I just think he's such a good defensive coach. I think he's going to make it hard for Vossi to penetrate their defense. But you know what? Like, I don't know anything, mate. I'm the nuff. We're all nuffs. Like, maybe I've just spent the last hour saying how much we've changed, and now I'm worried about St Kilda. I'm a bloody hypocrite. Maybe it's just my fear, the PTSD. I don't know. But I'd love nothing more than for us to come out and just win comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will see. Last question before we wrap this up. Do you have any quick changes for this week with Chera's injury? Are you making any bold moves this week? What are you sort of looking at right now? I know it's very early in the week. It's Monday night. There's still a lot to happen. Have you thought much about the team changes or what replacement you're making for Adam Chera right now?
No, look, not really. I mean, I think it's a straight swap for Dow, because he's the only person who's fit at the moment. Unless Voss wants to go left field and chuck Newman in there, could happen. But I've got a sneaky feeling, mate. I've got a sneaky feeling that there's one SW sitting there, Sammy Walsh. I think that strain's feeling pretty good right now. 9-day break. He's a freak of nature, as we all know. I don't know.
I read way too much into Sam Walsh, and I don't know if you heard this or thought the same thing. They interviewed him at one of the end of the quarters, talking about something, and this just sums up his mentality, I think, over so many others, and it's why he's got the natural ability, but he goes that step above, becomes superstar of the game. They asked him about the injury, and he was like, "Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow. I can finally." That's the day I can run, and it feels like I'm actually doing something, and I'm not just being lazy. Was what he was kind of saying, and it's like that is the mentality of someone that's going to get back before they were diagnosed with the injury.
Hey, when was that interview?
It was I think it was at quarter time or half time. They asked him like how he's feeling, and he said he's like, I think it's going to be that 2 to 3 weeker, just the standard. But he was like, yeah, got a running session tomorrow. Finally keen to jump in because I can finally feel like I'm doing something. I'm not just sitting around doing nothing. So if he's already back with at least a bit of a running session on last Saturday, stranger things have happened this week.
Mate, yeah.
Am I hyping it up too much?
No, I'm the same as you, mate. We're both hopeless. I don't know. This is a sneaky feeling, mate. I don't know. We'll see.
Absolutely
He's back.
love it. He's in. But look, thanks so much, Jad, for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I need to get you on again, especially when Lockie's back. We'll make sure that you are on throughout the remainder of this podcast as we keep going at the Navy Blue Corner. It's been an absolute pleasure. Before we go, where can the people find you and get into contact with Jad if they want to keep up with everything about you?
Just Twitter. What is it? At Jaouhari, Facebook, all those things. I'm sure you can find it. I don't know if I'm happy to. Look, I'm not really big on the socials, mate, but like I love meeting new Carlton people and having chats and getting different perspectives. My DMs are always open, so anyone wants to chat footy or tell me I suck or whatever, I'm all for it, mate. Like I love the Blues. I love our fan base. Just loving it. We're all on this journey together. It's about to get really bloody good too. So yeah. Let's go, boys.
100%. Love it. Yeah, look, and links to Jad's Twitter or X or whatever Elon Musk is going to goddamn change that thing to.
X.
Next will be in the show notes, will be in the description. And he's there every single week. Whether we win or lose, which I got to commend you with on the fan cams on Blue Abroad, giving his a little bit of opinion, which, as I said, it's one of my favorite parts of the fan cams, hearing what Jad has to say.
Thanks, mate.
But yeah, that is going to wrap up this episode. Again, we'd love to talk about this win forever. We almost have, but got to move on to the next one. The job isn't done. But in saying that, baggers, enjoy this win because this one was absolutely special. And we'll be back talking about another big win over the Saners this time next week. Again, big thanks to Jad for joining me. Up the bloody baggers.
Up the boy, at the baggers.